Hi guys, so today we are on our second to last topic for our IOChem 1 for B lecture, and today we're going to discuss the amino acids, peptides, and proteins. Okay, for proteins, they are naturally occurring polymers composed of amino acid units joined one to another by amide or peptide bonds. So when we say proteins, they are long chains. They are long chains and they are actually made up of smaller building blocks, and we call them as amino acids. So when we say amino acids, for analogy, let's take for example a bead. So if ang bead naton i-join na siya together by an amide bond, we can now form a protein. Protein are like necklaces, no? So mga long chain of beads of amino acids are proteins. Okay, so for example, we have spider webs, animal hair, muscle, egg white, and hemoglobin. All of these are proteins. And for hemoglobin, this is actually a protein in your blood. Okay. Next, we have peptides. When we say peptides, they are oligomers. So please take note, they are not polymers, but they are oligomers of amino acids that play important roles in many biological processes. So, kagina, no, as I have mentioned, kung ang proteins naton, if they are like necklaces and the amino acids are like beads, ang peptides na naman niya, it's much shorter compared to our proteins. So, kung sa analogy, no, katong peptides niya, they are like bracelets. Okay? So, our peptides also play important roles in our body. For example, we have insulin. Insulin is a peptide and it actually helps control our blood sugar. We also have the bradykinin, which controls our blood pressure, and oxytocin, which regulates the uterine contraction, no, during childbirth, and also for lactation or breastfeeding. So proteins, peptides, and amino acids are essential to the structure, function, and reproduction of living matter. Okay, now we have the naturally occurring amino acids. So the amino acids obtained from protein hydrolysis are alpha amino acids. So when we say hydrolysis, it simply means that we break down the proteins to get the alpha amino acids. No? So ang alpha amino acids natin, amo na sila ang mga basic structure for our proteins. Okay, so what does an alpha amino acid mean? It actually means that we have the amino group that is attached to the alpha carbon atom. Your alpha carbon atom is actually here, located at the center, because your alpha carbon atom is the first carbon that is next to the carboxyl group. So our carboxyl group in this structure is this one. Okay, so please remember that the alpha carbon atom is the carbon atom that is next to the carboxyl group. At the same time, there is also an amino group that is attached to it. Okay. So most of the alpha amino acids have this special carbon, which we call as our stereogenic center. Another term for that is the chiral center, and it is actually located at the alpha carbon. So your alpha carbon is, as I've mentioned, this is the carbon wherein may naka-attach sa iya no nga amino group, carboxyl group, hydrogen, and the R group. Okay? So you have to remember that a carbon becomes stereogenic when it is attached to 4 different groups. Okay, so this actually will allow us, or will allow the molecule to exist in 2 mirror images. Like again discussed last meeting, no, we have the different configurations for that. So these forms are actually optically active, meaning they can rotate the plane polarized light. So in our text here, there is also an exception for that. We have the glycine. Okay, so the glycine is an exception because the R group in glycine is actually hydrogen. So instead of the alpha carbon being attached to the 4 different functional groups, the alpha carbon in glycine is actually attached to 2 hydrogen atoms. At the same time, it has amino group and the carboxyl group. Therefore, because of the R group being a hydrogen, the alpha carbon does not have 4 different groups. Therefore, aton glycine, no, it is not considered as chiral, or it is not optically active. Okay, so we also have the L configuration. When we say L configuration, with the exception of glycine, of course, they have the L configuration that is relative to glyceraldehyde. If na-remember nyo ang structure ni glyceraldehyde, using the Fisher projection system, last meeting, no? So, all naturally occurring amino acids are actually have the L configuration. Okay? So, note that the Fisher convention used with carbohydrates is also applied to amino acids. So, same lang ang principle. Okay? The L and the D configuration that has been used in our carbohydrate na topic, you can also use this in the amino acids. Okay? Okay, so now let's proceed to the different names and formulas of the common amino acids. So these are the common amino acids. We have grouped them into three, I guess. No, may kita tatlo ka groupings sa diri, depending on the number of functional groups that is attached to the alpha carbon. So the first one, we have one amino group and one carboxyl group attached. So we have glycine. So as you can see here sa glycine naton, this is the name. This is the abbreviation, 3-letter lang na siya. And this one is our isoelectric point. So when we say isoelectric point, it is the point wherein the net charge of our amino acid is actually equivalent to 0. So wala kita charges dira. Sige lang, i-discuss na siya later. Okay? So for the 1-letter abbreviation, you can also use G. And for the formula, this is our glycine. And ato kagina na mention ko during sa mga previous nga slides, no, ang aton glycine is an exception. Hindi siya chiral. It's because one of the R group or the R group of glycine is actually hydrogen. So this is the R group. Okay? So R group ni siya, hydrogen saya, no? And this is actually the other hydrogen atom. This is your carboxyl group and this is the amino group. Okay? Next, we have the alanine. Alanine, or the 3-letter abbreviation ni alanine is ALA. And another formula for alanine is here. But this is not hydrogen, no? So, meaning this is chiral. Kaya may ara siya apat ka different nga functional groups. May ara siya R group, may ara siya hydrogen, may ara siya amino, and may ara siya carboxyl group. Same with valine, leucine, and isoleucine. But this time, may mga branches na ang aton nga R group. So, we also have serine and threonine. Serine and threonine, for the R groups of these two amino acids, they actually contain alcohol. So, as you can see here, we have alcohol, or OH, no? Sa iya nga R group. Okay? And next, we have the cysteine and methionine. Sa ilan naman yung duwa, ang ilang R group, it contains sulfur. So, ari mer kita sang sulfur na nga involved. Okay? Next, we have the proline, phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan. But for the proline, the amino group is secondary and part of a ring. So, this is your amino group. Part siya sang ring nga nag-form. That's for proline. For phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan, one hydrogen in alanine is replaced by an aromatic or heteroaromatic indole ring. So, for example, as you can see here sa phenylalanine naton, this is actually similar, no, sa aton nga alanine kagina. Balik ta sa atong previous slide. Okay? Ang tsura sang alanine ta is this one. No? Amuni ang formula sang alanine. So, magkadto kita kay phenylalanine instead of CH3 na de, natabo is ang isa ni hydrogen sang iyang R group is being replaced by the aromatic ring. Okay, this one. For tyrosine, similar man, no, ang iyang alanine, isa ka hydrogen, they green replace sang ini, no, sa ining ring. And same lang yapon aromatic siya. And for tryptophan man, this is what we call as our heteroaromatic ring or indole ring. So, duwa na nga ring na form. Same siya yapon, alanine, and one hydrogen is being replaced. Okay, next we have one amino group and two carboxyl groups. So, we have aspartic acid and glutamic acid. As you can see, we have two carboxyl groups and one amino group for each amino acid. Next, we have the asparagine and glutamine. I don't know nga again butang ni sila no under sa ini nga group no, but for asparagine and glutamine actually they have one carboxyl group, one amine or amino group, and one amide group. Okay, so for us to not be confused, no, let's not overanalyze things na lang, but remember that these amino acids have this kind of structure. Okay. Okay, next we have the one carboxyl group and the two basic groups. Under that, we have the lysine, arginine, and histidine. And for lysine, the second basic group is a primary amine. This one. Okay, so ang isa ka amino group nimo located siya no sa main gid nimo nga structure, and then sa chain or the R group under that ara dang imo nga primary amine. But for arginine naman, your arginine has the guanidine. This is your guanidine. Okay, this is attached to the R group or ang mga carbon chains naton. And for histidine naman, we have the imidazole. Okay, so this ring is actually what we call as imidazole. Okay. So out of the 20 amino acids listed in the table earlier, 12 of them can be synthesized in the body from other foods. So meaning these are our non-essential amino acids. So when we say non-essential amino acids, these amino acids can be synthesized by the body from the nutrients that we eat, and even no if hindi kita magkaon directly, our body are capable to make these amino acids. That's why we call them as our non-essential amino acids. So ang mga non-essential amino acids naton ato ang mga naka-black nga font. So all of these are our non-essential amino acids. So we have actually 12 of them. Okay? 12 sila kabilog. And then, of course, kung may non-essential, we also have essential amino acids. So the other 9, those with names shown in color and referred to as essential amino acids, cannot be synthesized by adult humans and therefore must be included in the diet in the form of proteins. Actually, in your book, it is only 8. So, meron kita 8 essential amino acids and 12 for non-essential amino acids. But, nakabutang din sa itong slide 9, it's because we have to add histidine. So, may special case, yes, si histidine. So, sa mga bata, mga infants, no, and children, their body could not synthesize enough histidine to support the rapid growth, no, and to support the normal needs sa ilang alawas. So they must obtain it from their diet. That is why it is considered as an essential amino acid for children and infants. But for adults, ang adults siya hindi maka-synthesize enough histidine to meet the normal needs. So that is why considered siya as non-essential amino acid for adults. Okay? Okay, next, we have the acid-base properties of amino acids. So the carboxylic acid and amine functional groups are simultaneously present in amino acids, and we might ask whether they are mutually compatible since one group is acidic and the other is basic. Okay, inside the same amino acid molecule, we have the acidic part. If I remember nyo, may kita different groups for the structure of amino acid. So, ang acidic part na dira is your carboxyl group, the COOH. The COOH or the carboxyl group can actually donate a proton or the hydrogen ion. And the basic part of the structure is actually your amino group, which is the NH2. Your NH2 can accept that proton. Okay? So, ang matabo after sang ini nga proton transfer, no, ang aton nga amino acid, it will now become dipolar. Okay? Dipolar ion structure. Dipolar siya, other term for that is the zwitterion. Okay? So, it means that this molecule or this amino acid has both a positive and a negative charge at the same time. But if you're going to take a look sa ilang charge, overall, no, ang inang molecule is neutral. Okay? Both may positive siya and negative charge. So, in this case, the zwitterion, we have the positive charge na amine group. Naging positive siya kay nag-accept siya sa hydrogen, and this is your carboxyl group. Negative siya kay nag-donate siya sa hydrogen. Okay? So the amino group is protonated and present as an ammonium ion, whereas the carboxyl group has lost its proton and is present as a carboxylate ion. So atong kagina, we have the dipolar structure or the Zwitter ion. What happens is that your amino group will gain a proton. That's why it becomes NH3 positive. No, may kita positively charged ammonium ion. And for carboxyl group nga nag-lose siya sa proton, nadulaan siya sa hydrogen, it becomes COO negative, which is a negatively charged carboxylate ion. Okay, so this amino acid has now two opposite charges. So this dipolar structure is consistent with the salt-like properties of amino acids, which have rather high melting points. Even the simplest glycine melts at 233 degrees Celsius and relatively low solubilities in organic solvents. So this explains why the amino acids have very high melting points. So may pagka salt-like siya, no, ang iyang behavior sa aton nga amino acids. So for example, to si glycine, matunaw lang siya at 233 degrees Celsius. So this is much higher compared to those to most of the organic compounds naton. And their solubility is low in organic solvents like the alcohol, ether, no, low ang ilang solubility. Same with our salt, no, our salt will actually dissolve better in water than in organic liquids. Okay? So amino acids are amphoteric. Okay, balik kita what's the definition sa amphoteric. When we say amphoteric, they can act as an acid and a base. So they can behave as acids and donate a proton to a strong base, or they can behave as bases and accept a proton from a strong acid. So these behavior are expressed in the following equilibria for an amino acid with one amino and one carboxyl group. So tandaan nyo, basta gani acid, no, ang acid na to, nagadonate na siya proton sa isa ka base. No? It donates a proton to a strong base. And ang ato naman nga mga base or bases naton could actually accept hydrogen ion or a proton from a strong acid. So when we say amino acids, they can do both because basically they contain the amino group which is basic and the carboxyl group which is acidic. So nagadepende ni ang pag-gain kag lose naton sa protons sa pH mismo sang aton nga solution. So we have three possible states for our amino acid. We have the low pH, ang low pH naton nga acidity, or let's say this is acidic, no. Ang aton nga form for this amino acid is actually cationic or cations. So sa ini nga environment which is acidic, we have a lot of hydrogen ions. So ang aton nga amino acid especially ang aton nga amino group, it becomes positively charged because it gains the proton or the hydrogen ion, while your carboxyl group will just stay as protonated. Wala siya nakaksan, wala man siya na nagdugangan sang hydrogen ion or proton. So consistent lang siya nga COOH. Okay? So for the net charge of this cation, it is actually positive 1. Net charge niya. For Zwitter ion or the neutral pH, wala kita sang charge diri nga aman. It's because your amino group is protonated. This one protonated siya, it has a positive charge, but for carboxyl group instead of COOH, nakaksan kita sang proton or hydrogen ion, therefore may kita negative charge. Now the opposite charges will repel, or let's say will cancel out each other. So therefore the net charge for Zwitter ion is 0. And for the anion in basic environment, no, anion high pH. So this is negatively charged. It's because in our solution we have only a few hydrogen ions. So our NH3 kagina diri nabuhinan siya sang proton, nagimo na lang siya balik sa amino group nga NH2, and your COO, instead of going back to carboxyl group nga COOH, it remains deprotonated, no, negatively charged man siya gyapon. Therefore, the net charge for this anion is negative 1. Okay, kaginaya positive 1. Dapat positive 1. Okay. So we also have the acid-base properties of amino acids with more than one acidic or basic groups. For example, we have the aspartic and the glutamic acid. If you're going to take a look at the table in our previous slides, just number 14 and 15, no, amino acid, they have 2 carboxyl groups and 1 amino group. Okay, so in strong acid or at low pH, all 3 of these groups are in their acidic form or protonated. And as the pH is raised and the solution becomes more basic, each group in succession gives up a proton. Okay, so for example, let's take a look at the aspartic acid. We have different charges for this. And let's focus first on our zither ion. At the pH of 2.8, we have a 0 net charge. It's because ang aton nga duwa ka carboxyl group, no? This is your first carboxyl group and the second carboxyl group. One of them is actually deprotonated and the amino group here is protonated. Therefore, may kita negative and positive charge. So, ga-cancel out sila together, no? Kay opposite ilang nga charges. Therefore, you will have a 0 nga net charge. So, as the pH decreases, and in this case, we have less than 2 nga pH, the 2 carboxyl groups remains protonated. Okay? So, yapon sa COOH yung form. But the amino group here is also protonated, so it gains an extra hydrogen ion, so it makes it positively charged. Therefore, the charge in this structure of aspartic acid, no, ara siya sa acidic niya nga pH, we have 1 plus nga charge, or positive 1. Okay, for our next structure, this one, our pH is more basic. Ara nakita sa 7 yung pH. What happens is our 2 carboxyl groups, instead of COOH, nadulaan na sila sang ilang hydrogen ion. So, kung mabalik kita bala sa zither ion, isa lang sa ila ang nakaksan sang hydrogen ion, but pagkataas, no, sa aton yung pH, kalabot 3, no, duwa na ka-carboxyl groups ang na-deprotonated. But your amino group remains protonated, therefore, we have 1 positive charge, kag duwa ka negative nga charge. So, kung i-combine mo na siya all together, you will have a negative 1 na charge. And sa much basic pagid nga pH, no, all of them becomes deprotonated. So instead of NH3+, nadulaan na siya charge kaya nakaksan siya sa isa ka hydrogen, and your 2 carboxyl groups also becomes deprotonated. So instead of COOH, naging COO negative na lang. Therefore, the charge in this aspartic acid is negative 2 or 2 minus. Okay? Okay, so the situation differs for amino acids with 2 basic groups and only 1 carboxyl group. We have the different entries for that, the 18, 19, and 20 amino acids in the table 17.1, and one of those is lysine. So, basi ma-confuse ka mo guys, no, ang gingamit sini nga PowerPoint is different from our book. Actually, you have to remember that in our lysine, we have 1 carboxyl group. This is your 1 carboxyl group and 2 basic groups, ang aton nga NH3. So, you have to take note that each of these groups have their own pKa's. No, magsiling kita pKa. I just want to emphasize this one. When we say pKa, this is actually the measure of the acid strength. Okay? But when we say pH, pH is the measure of the hydrogen ion in our solution. So, in the case of our lysine, your COOH here actually has a pKa of 2.18. Ang sa book is 2.18, but for our example, sa itong PPT, this is 2.17. However, remember lang, basta gani, carboxyl group, ang typical, lagi niya pKa is around 2. Okay? Ang aton nga next nga basic group, no, we have the NH3 that is attached to our alpha carbon. This one has the pKa of 8.95. Okay, 8.95. But in this case, nakabutang is 9.04, but it's okay. And for the next nga basic group, which is here located just sa aton nga carbon chain, this is actually 10.5. In your book, it is written as 10.53. Okay, though similar lang siya, no? 10.5 or 10.53. But in this case naman, we have 12.48. So, sige lang. You have to take note that as your pH or your pH is lower than your pKa or your pK right here, kung mas nubo ang pH naton, it becomes more acidic. What happens is that all of the groups here becomes protonated. So in this case, okay, erase na nita na ha. Sa ini nga structure, ang aton nga carboxyl group remains as a COOH. Wala siya nakaksan hydrogen ion. So intact lang siya nga COOH, aton nga carboxyl group. And the two basic groups becomes protonated. So, nag-gain sila sa hydrogen ion. So, instead of NH2, it becomes NH3 positive. So, we have charges na. So, ang natabo is, aton nga net charge for this structure is 2 positive or plus 2 in this first nga structure. Now, if your pH, the pH increases above the 2.17 or 2.18 nga pKa, which is the pKa of our carboxyl group, what happens is that this group will now become deprotonated. So if you're going to take a look at the second structure, your two basic groups remained protonated, wala sila nag-change, no? Ang nag-change lang gid is your carboxyl group. Since this is now above the 2.17 or 2.18 yung pKa, no, nag-increase ito ng pH. So, na-deprotonated siya. Nakaksan siya sa iya nga hydrogen ion. Now, it has a negative charge. So, since we have 3 charges, we have 2 positives and 1 negative, all in all, the net charge for this structure is positive 1 or 1 plus. Next, if nag-increase pa gid no atong pKa, if nag-increase pa gid atong pH at above 9.04, or itong kaginang na-mention ko, ang pKa sang aton first nga basic group is, according sa book naton, it's 8.95, no? But, if you're going to, sundon tani, no? Ang ini nga structure, or ini nga example, if it is higher than the 9.04, what happens is that your first nga basic group will now become deprotonated. So, instead of NH3 positive, nagimo na lang siya NH2. So, instead of having the positive charge, no, naging nakaksan siya sang charge. Okay? So, what we have right now in this structure, we only have a negative charge for this carboxyl group and a positive charge for this basic group or the NH3 positive. So, all in all, no, may kita isa ka negative and isa ka positive, they will cancel out each other. Therefore, the charge for this structure is 0. And then next, we have this structure. So, if the pKa is above 12.48, sa ini nga example, in your book, it's 10.53. But para hindi ta mag-confuse, no, sundon ta ni Danay. If mag-increase na sa 12.48, ang maapektuhan na diri is the second nga basic group, which is located here sa dalom. So, kagina, NH3 positive pa ni siya, okay? Since nag-increase natin yung pKa or our pH is now above the pKa, which is 12.48, it becomes deprotonated. So, all of them becomes deprotonated. So, you will only have a negative charge here kung dari wala na kita charges. Therefore, all in all, the net charge for this structure is negative 1 or 1 minus. Okay? So, para hindi kang ma-confuse if you're going to study using this PowerPoint, naman ibasihan nyo. But same explanation goes to the example ng ara naman sa inyo nga book. Similar lang na sila. You just have to understand, no, ang aton nga pasunod kagina. Okay? Okay, next we have electrophoresis. Electrophoresis is an important method for separating amino acids that takes advantage of these charge differences. So, as we have seen lately sa atong example, ang charge sa aton nga amino acid, no, nagadepende na sa pH man sang aton nga environment. So in a typical electrophoresis experiment, a mixture of amino acids is placed on a solid support, for example, paper, and the support is bathed in an aqueous solution at a controlled pH. So we have the mixture of amino acids, no, placed na siya sa solid support. You can use paper or gel. And for example, if you're going to use the paper, it will be soaked or bathed in a solution with a controlled pH. So next, we have the electrical field. Electrical field is then applied across the paper. So, ang isa ka side sa inang paper, you will have a positively charged anode, and on the other side, you have the negatively charged cathode. So, the amino acids that are positively charged at the pH, or at that pH, migrate toward the negatively charged cathode, and amino acids that are negatively charged migrate toward the positively charged anode. So, the migration ceases when the electrical field is turned off. So, tandaan nyo that opposite charges attracts. Therefore, kung ang amino acid naton may ara siya positive charge, it will move toward the negative cathode. And kung negative charge ang amino acid, it will move towards the positive anode. And kung neutral, of course, they will not move. Okay? So, ang pH natin, it matters actually kay kagina, no? Ang aton nga mga amino acid, ang charges nila will actually depend on the pH of our environment. So because of this, no, the same amino acid can behave differently at different pH levels. But in the case of our electrophoresis, we have a controlled pH. So kabaga kabalo na kita sang ini nga pH, no, stable siya sa amo na mismo nga pH for us to know kung sa diin da nga mga amino acids ang mag-move toward the cathode and the anode depending on their charges. Okay, for example, we have the migration of the amino acid, which is, in this case, we have alanine. So, it actually depends on the pH of the electrical field. So, at the higher pH, your alanine, which is negatively charged, it migrates toward the positive charged anode. And for the isoelectric point, which is 6.02, actually, the isoelectric point of alanine, according sa aton nga table kagina, is 6.0. Okay, so in this point, if ang pH natin is 6.02, your alanine will not migrate. Okay, kasi alanine natin neutral. So at low pH, your alanine is positively charged, therefore it will migrate toward the negatively charged cathode. Okay, so this is how the electrophoresis work, no? Nagadepend siya sa pH natin nga aton nga field. At the same time, no, naga-vary ang pag-migrate sa aton mga amino acids depending on their charges as well. So this is just an example of how electrophoresis work. Okay, and because most amino acids do not have exactly the same charge at a given pH, mixtures of amino acids can be separated by electrophoresis because the components migrate toward the anode or cathode at different rates. So remember guys, nga aton nga amino acids may mga different kita nga charges at a given pH tungod sa mga differences man no sa ilang side chains, and some of them are actually acidic or more acidic and some are more basic. So this means that even if we will use the same solution, each amino acid will carry a slightly different net charge. So kung i-applyan ta na sa electric field, ang ini nga mga amino acid will actually move toward the anode or the cathode at different speed. So this will allow the mixture to be separated into individual components. Okay, so electrophoresis is also used to separate peptides and proteins because they behave much like their building blocks, which are the amino acids, at a given pH. So peptides and proteins, no, since they are all your peptides and proteins are also made of amino acids, so meaning they can also carry charges depending sa ilang pH. So same lang sa amino acids na to, they can actually migrate differently in an electric field. Okay, so amo ka powerful lang aton nga electrophoresis, no, para ma-analyze ang mga complex na mixtures ng proteins or peptides no sa laboratory. Okay? So for the reactions of amino acids, in addition to their acidic and basic behavior, amino acids undergo other reactions typical of carboxylic acids or amines. For example, the carboxyl group can be esterified. So in the case of the Fischer esterification of alanine, this one is alanine combined with ethanol in the presence of our catalyst, which is HCl, and you will have this product. So when we say esterification, ang ato na ginatapikan is the carboxyl group. Next, we also have the amino group that can be acylated to an amide. So this is actually glycine. And your glycine, ang gin-add natin sa iya is the acetic anhydride. This one is an acetic anhydride, no? Tandaan tayo, for acylation, ang ginatapikan is the amino group and not the carboxyl group. So the amino group of the glycine will attach or will attack one of the the carbonyl carbons of the acetic anhydride to form the amide bond. Okay, so this is our product, the N-acetylglycine. Next, we have the ninhydrin reaction. So ninhydrin is a useful reagent for detecting amino acids and determining the concentrations of their solutions. So ninhydrin is actually a chemical that is used to detect amino acids, and we actually measure the amount of amino acid in a solution based on the color that it produces. So the ninhydrin will react to the amino group of an amino acid, and then this reaction will produce a violet colored dye. So again, remember guys, the color of the dye is violet. So only the nitrogen atom in the dye comes from the amino acid, and the rest of the amino acid is broken down into an aldehyde and carbon dioxide. So because of the reaction, and because the reaction is the same for all alpha amino acids with the primary amino group, the intensity of the violet color will tell us how much amino acid is present. However, we have a special case for this. We have proline. Proline has a secondary amino group. So instead, primary lang ang amino group nga ara siya, may siya secondary amino group. So it reacts differently no sa aton nga ninhydrin nga chemical. So instead of having a violet colored dye, it produces a yellow dye. So this is also used no for analysis. Okay? Next, let's proceed to the peptides. So, na-mention tani si peptide kagina sa beginning, it's ang aton nga topic. So, when we say peptides, these are the shorter versions of our proteins. No? Kung si proteins naton, necklaces, and the beads are your amino acids. For our peptides naman yan. Doon mga bracelets na ni sila. Okay? Example lang na. So, the amino acids are linked in peptides and proteins by an amide bond between the carboxyl group of one amino acid and the alpha amino group of another amino acid. So, Emil Fischer, who first proposed this structure, called this amide bond a peptide bond. So, a molecule containing only two amino acids joined in this way is a dipeptide. So, in this case, we have the amino acid number 1 and amino acid number 2. So when we combine this together, you will have a dipeptide. So you can also add more amino acids and join them together using a peptide bond, and you can call them as your tripeptides, tetrapeptides, or even proteins sa aton nga mga polypeptides, mga dalag ko na naya. Okay? And I also want to emphasize the N-terminal and the C-terminal. So the amino acid with the free amino group, or the NH3, is actually written on the left side, and we call this as our N-terminal amino acid. And the C-terminal amino acid has the amino acid with the free carboxyl group. Free carboxyl group, COO minus, which is usually written on the right side. Okay? So this will actually help us show the direction of our peptide chain. Okay, next, we often write the formulas for peptides in a kind of shorthand by simply linking the three-letter abbreviations for each amino acid, starting with the N-terminal one at the left. For example, we have the glycylalanine, it is glyala, and your alanine glycine is alagly. So, this is actually used by the chemists, no, para maging easier na lang sa ila ang mag-write ng peptide. So, they will use the 3-letter abbreviations for our amino acids, and you have to start with the N-terminal amino acid. Okay? For example, to kagina si glycylalanine. So, ang N-terminal ta amino acid is glycine. The C-terminal amino acid is alanine. That's why if you're going to write the shorthand notation for peptides, it is written as gly-ala. So, dapat may dash. Gets ito nga. For alanine glycine, we have alanine, which is an N-terminal amino acid. And the C-terminal amino acid is the glycine. And it will be written as ala-gly. So, mas hapos ni siya, mas easy, or quick siya nga makita mo bala kung ano nga mga amino acids ang ara sa isa ka peptide and even ang ilang nga order. So, you will use the shorthand nga notation. Next, we have the disulfide bond. So, aside from the peptide bond, the only other type of covalent bond between amino acids in peptides and proteins is the disulfide bond. So, it actually it links two cysteine units, and in this case, at an example, you have the 2 sulfur atoms of our 2 cysteine amino acids, which has been combined or bonded together using a disulfide bond. So this is a covalent bond. Okay, so the disulfide bonds actually help stabilize our 3-dimensional structures of protein. So, important ni sila sa mga different proteins natin in our body. So again, you have to remember that in our peptide bonds, it actually linked the amino acids in a chain, but for our disulfide bonds, it linked 2 cysteine units, which actually helps the protein keep its shape. Okay? So if the 2 cysteine units are in a different part of the same chain of a peptide or protein, a disulfide bond between them will form a loop or a ring. Basta gani siya sa isa lang ka chain or the same na chain, ang ating nga duwa ka cysteine units, it will fold or it will form into a loop or a large ring. So, pwede no nga duwa ka ways no ang disulfide bonds na nga mag-form depending sa kung diin ang atong mga cysteine units na locate. So, kung sa different chains naman niya, ang duwa natin, kasi cysteine units are located on different chains, the disulfide bond will just cross-link the chains. So, it will actually help stabilize our multi-chain nga proteins. So, tandaan nyo, basta gani, within the same chain, ang aton nga cysteine units, it will form a ring or it will form a loop. But if the 2 units are on a different chain, the bonds will just cross-link the 2 chains. Okay? Next, we have the proteins again. Na-mention din siya kanina, no? This is a much larger nga chain naman yung of amino acids, unlike our peptides. So, proteins are biopolymers composed of many amino acids connected to one another through the amide bonds or the peptide bonds. So, they play numerous roles in biological systems, and some proteins are major components of structural tissue like muscles, skin, nails, and hair. And others transport molecules from one part of a living system to another, yet others serve as a catalyst for the many biological reactions needed to sustain life. So, tandaan ito, basta proteins, they are biopolymers. They are made of many amino acids together with our peptide bonds, and they are very essential sa life naton is because damo siya role sa aton nga body. One of those is your structural proteins. So, when I say structural proteins, it actually give support and shape sa aton nga tissue, like sa aton nga muscle, no, sa skin, even your nails and your hair. For transport proteins naman, these proteins will carry molecules around the body. For example, your hemoglobin. Your hemoglobin is actually a protein which carries the oxygen in our blood. And for enzymes naman, your enzymes could actually act as a catalyst, which helps in the speeding up of the chemical reactions in our body. So, mga proteins sila tanan and they are very important sa aton nga body. Next, we have the primary structure of proteins. So, the backbone of proteins is a repeating sequence of 1 nitrogen and 2 carbon atoms. So, amo ni sila ang mga ginahamba ko kagina nga beads. Kung sa beads ang aton nga mga amino acids, it will form a long chain or a necklace, no? Kung necklace ni, and we call them as our proteins kay tungod laba siya nga chain. So, your amino acids, each of them contains a alpha carbon, meron kita carboxyl group, amino group, R group, and hydrogen. And if you're going to take a look at the backbone of the proteins, which is, these are all your amino acids, no, again combined together, meron kita repeating units of nitrogen and 2 carbon atoms. So, sulit-sulit na nitrogen, carbon, carbon, nitrogen, carbon, carbon. So, sequence lang ni siya. However, you have to remember that each circle nga ini, this is a single amino acid. Okay? So, tanandaan nyo man ang aton nga structure for our amino acid kung ano to ang 4 functional groups nga naka-attach sa aton nga alpha carbon. Okay, another example of our primary structure of protein. So, we have the amino end and sa kada isa na sila, these are your amino acid subunits. So, we only use a 3-letter no nga naming sa aton nga amino acid para mas easy kag of course shorthand lang ang notation. Okay, so we're done with the primary structure of our proteins, which is chain. Long chain lang siya. But for our secondary structure of proteins, this contains also a long chain of amino acids that are strung together, and one might think that their shapes are rather amorphous or floppy and ill-defined. However, this is not true. This is incorrect. It's because many of the proteins have been isolated in pure crystalline form and are polymers with well-defined shapes. Indeed, even in solution, the shapes seem to be quite regular. So, it is not floppy or shapeless. No, the proteins are actually, it can be isolated as pure crystals. So, may agad sila shape ni ilagit. So, even kung i-dissolve mo siya sa water, it can actually maintain its regular or organized nga structure. Okay? That's the secondary structure of our proteins. We have the alpha helix and the beta pleated sheet. So, muning ang mga structure under secondary, no, structure sa ating proteins. So, the X-ray crystallographic studies of the alpha keratin, which is a structural protein present in hair, wool, horns, and nails, showed that some features of the structure repeats itself every 5.4 angstrom. So, ang angstrom natin, this is actually a unit of length. This is equal to 10 to the power of negative 10 meters or 0.1 nanometer. Okay? So, Linus Pauling, he proposed that the polypeptide chain coils about itself in a spiral manner to form alpha helix and held rigid by intra-chain hydrogen bonds, and the alpha helix, as it is called, is right-handed and has a pitch of 5.4 angstrom or 3.6 amino acid units. So, if you're going to take a look at the structure of our alpha helix, this is your alpha helix. No, ano yung shape. Okay, so we have the amino terminus and the carboxyl terminus, no, located on the opposite ng mga sides ng ating chain. The gray ones are your carbon. Ang puti, ang mga hydrogen. Red for oxygen. Nitrogen is blue. And the R group is purple or violet. So, amo na sila ang tsura sang aton nga alpha helix. And I just want also to emphasize our R group. The R group groups here, which are located in our side chains, they stick outward from the helix. So, wala sila yung nag-point pasulod, nor sila sa sagwa, and they do not interfere with the hydrogen-bonded core. So, these are your R groups, ang color purple. Okay? So, our alpha helix, this is a very common nga pattern or natural folding pattern sa mga proteins naton, and then actually it provides stability, no, while allowing the proteins to adopt functional shapes. So tandaan basta alpha helix spiral shape ang katod nga protein chain. So aside from the alpha helix, we also have the pleated sheet. So the structural protein beta-carotene obtained from the silk fibroin shows a different repeating pattern at 7 angstrom in its X-ray crystal structure. So to explain the data, Pauling suggested a pleated sheet arrangement of the peptide chain. And in the pleated sheet, peptide chains lie side by side and are held together by interchain hydrogen bonds, and adjacent chains run in opposite directions. The repeating unit in each chain, which is stretched out compared with the alpha helix, is about 7 angstrom. So, ang ating naman niya, may kita side by side nga chain. So, your peptide chains will actually lie next to each other, like in our, like mga sheets of paper. So, they are actually held together by hydrogen bonds man gihapon, no, in between sa aton nga carbonyl and ato ang NH ka groups. So kina si alpha helix naton, it forms a spiral ari naman niya do sheet, no, do ka papel. So they also have the anti-parallel arrangement. When we say anti-parallel arrangement, the adjacent chains often run in opposite directions, and the arrangement maximizes the hydrogen bonding and stability. So we also have the stretch chains compared sa aton being alpha helix gina, ang chains naman niya sa aton yung beta sheet, they are more extended, and the repeating distance along each chain is actually 7 angstrom, unlike sa alpha helix naton kagina, which is 5.4 angstrom. Okay, please remember gid ang mga values naton. So in the pleated sheet structure, the R groups of amino acid units in any one chain alternate above and below the mean plane of the sheet. And if the R groups are large, they can actually bump into each other. So there will be a steric repulsion between the chains, and this actually makes the sheet unstable if many large amino acids are present. So mas nag-work siya best, no, sa mga proteins that have high percentage of amino acid units with small R groups. So the beta sheet is more stable or most stable in proteins with small amino acid side chains. So for this reason, the pleated sheet structure is important only in proteins that have a high percentage of amino acid units with small R groups. So in our beta-carotene of silk fibroin, for example, 36% of the amino acid units are glycine and another 22% are alanine. So these small side chains will allow the chains to pack closely together. That's why it forms a strong, stable nga sheet. Okay, so this is the structure or the beta pleated sheet structure. No, itong kagina na-mention ko nga do papel lang siya. Meron sila nga side by side nga chains. So unlike sa aton nga alpha helix nga nag-spiral lang siya, this one naman niya medyo lapad siya and it forms like a sheet of paper. Okay? This is your beta pleated sheet structure under the secondary nga structure of our proteins. So for our tertiary structure, we have the fibrous and globular proteins. So ato ni mga proteins, no, pwede sila nga made up lang sila of the same building blocks atong ang mga amino acids naton, and yet they can form materials with different properties. So for example, sa mga horse hooves, no, these are rigid. For hair naman niya springy. For silk, we have soft na characteristic. For our egg white, this is slippery. for cartilage, which is inert, and for enzymes that are highly reactive. So this actually lies in the tertiary structure of the proteins. Okay, so the key lies mainly in the amino acid makeup itself. So far, we have focused on the protein backbone and its shape. But what about the diverse R groups of the various amino acids? How do they affect protein structure? So, uh, we have different R groups that will interact with each other in many ways. We have the hydrogen bonds. It could be an interaction, no, or ionic interaction. We also have the hydrophobic interaction and the disulfide bonds. So these kind of interactions will actually cause the proteins to fold into a unique 3D shape. Okay, so this will now determine the physical properties and the biological functions of our proteins. So, natandaan nyo ba sa tertiary, meron nakita mga 3D shapes, and the side chains or the R groups will decide how the chain will fold and interact to form the tertiary structure. So the folding will now give us or give the proteins the strength, flexibility, and the reactivity as well. Okay. So some amino acids have non-polar R groups and simple alkyl or aromatic groups. Others have highly polar R groups with carboxylate or ammonium ions and hydroxyl or other polar groups. And still others have flat, rigid, aromatic rings that may have interact in specific ways. So different R groups affect the gross properties of the proteins. So pwede na nga ito nga amino acids, may mga different types of side chains kita or R groups. And this will actually play a big role sa 3D shape kag sa properties ng aton nga protein. So when we say non-polar R groups, mga simple ani nga alkyl groups, or it could be an aromatic ring. These are actually hydrophobic. So they tend to cluster inside the protein, which is away from the water. And for the polar R groups naman, they contain OH, NH3 positive, the COO negative, ito wala ang mga amino and carboxyl nga groups, and other polar groups as well. So they are hydrophilic and they will interact with water or form hydrogen or ionic bonds. And for the rigid aromatic rings naman, they are actually flat, stiff na classes ng structure, and they can stack or interact in specific ways, which also helps stabilize the protein shape. Okay, so because of this mixture sa mga lain-lain nga R groups naton, it will determine ang shape, kag solubility, flexibility, and even ang function sa aton nga proteins. That is why may mga proteins kita nga non-polar, and they are usually globular. Okay, proteins with many non-polar residues inside are usually globular, and the proteins with long stretches of non-polar residues can actually form fibrous or strong structures like silk or hair. So proteins generally fall into one of the two main classes. We have the fibrous or globular. So when we say fibrous proteins, these proteins are actually long, tough, and structural, and they are also water insoluble. So it makes them ideal for support and protection in the body. So we have three main types of fibrous proteins. They fall into three general categories. We have the keratins, collagens, and silk. So when we say keratins, they are found in our skin, hair, claws, and nails, and they provide strength and protection. For collagens naman, we can find collagens in the cartilage, tendons, and blood vessels, and it gives them the flexibility and the tensile strength. And for silks naman, or the fibroin, makita na sa spider webs and even sa silkworm, cocoons. And they also provide a strong and yet flexible fibers. So these are the three categories for our fibrous proteins. Okay, next we have the keratins and the collagen. They have the helical structures. mainly helical sila, no? May mga alpha helices sila. So it provides stretch and flexibility of these keratins and collagen. But for silks naman, they have a beta pleated sheet structure, and they provide the strength also and the flexibility for our silks. So a large fraction of the R groups attached to these frameworks are non-polar. So if they are non-polar, they repel water. Okay? So it makes these proteins water insoluble. So for example, we have hair. So hair is actually made of keratin. So we have three alpha helices that are braided together to form a rope, and these helices are held together by disulfide bonds or disulfide cross links. And these ropes, they are packed side by side in bundles, and ultimately they will form the hair fiber. So the alpha keratin of more rigid structures, such as nails and claws, is similar to that of hair, except that there is a higher percentage of cysteine amino acid units in the polypeptide chain. So as we have mentioned earlier, ang hair made up of keratin man siya, and it is flexible because it has some disulfide bonds. But for our nails and claws, mas tiga siya rigid iya structure. It's because their keratin has more cysteine amino acids. So this means we have more disulfide crosslinks, and more crosslinks makes it firmer and less flexible structure. So, tandaan ta nga ang backbone structure naton sa mga proteins, especially those that are rigid and insoluble, they have the alpha helices or the beta pleated sheets, which gives them the strength and shape. And non-polar R groups will cluster away from water, which gives our protein the characteristic of being insoluble sa tubig, no? And your disulfide crosslinks, which stabilizes and stiffen our proteins. So together, all of these features will make our fibrous proteins strong, durable, and insoluble, and they are actually ideal for structural roles in our body. Okay? So we're done with the fibrous proteins. Let's now proceed to the globular proteins. So they are very different from fibrous proteins because they tend to be water soluble and have roughly spherical shapes, as their names suggest. Instead of being structural, globular proteins perform various other biological functions. It could be enzyme, hormones, transport proteins, or storage proteins. So when we say enzymes, they actually act as a biological catalysts. So when we say catalyst, it helps in the speeding up of the chemical reactions in our body. And for hormones, this will serve as chemical messengers, and it will help in the regulation of biological processes. For example, we have insulin that controls the blood sugar. Next, we have the transport proteins. So the transport proteins are the carriers of small molecules from one part of the body to another. For example, we have hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is actually a protein in your blood which transports oxygen all throughout the body. No, ara na siya sa aton nga blood. And next, we have the storage proteins, which acts as a nutrient reserve. And an example for that is your ovalbumin, which is found in egg whites. Okay? Okay, so the globular proteins have more amino acids with polar or ionic side chains than the water-insoluble fibrous proteins. So when it comes to amino acid composition, mas damo ang polar and ionic R groups sa aton nga globular proteins compared to the fibrous proteins that was mentioned earlier. So meaning they are less hydrophobic, or may kita less hydrophobic content sa aton nga globular proteins. And the hydrophobic side chains or the non-polar side chains or R groups, they are actually pointing toward the center, or they are tucked inside the protein, which is away from the water. And the polar or ionic side chains or R groups, they are exposed outside. So ang amo naman niya nga mga ionic R groups, no, since they are exposed outside, they interact with water. So this kind of arrangement actually helps the protein to stay soluble and stable in an aqueous environment. Okay, so the globular proteins are mainly helical. So damo kita helices and folded regions that will actually allow the protein to form a globular shape. So mainly helical sila, no, but it permits the overall shape to be globular. So whenever a proline unit occurs in the primary peptide structure, there will be no NH group available for intrachain hydrogen bonding. So because of that, these actually create kinks or bends in the helix, which affects the folding. Okay, so let's take a look at our structure. So we have here the proline side chain. So basta gani may proline nga side chain nga sa aton nga primary peptide structure, it will form a kink or bend sa aton nga helix. So this is your proline kink. Okay? So doon nagpilo siya, nagbend siya. So this is an example of our proline side chain. Next, we have the myoglobin. So this is the oxygen transport protein of muscle, and it is a good example of a globular protein. It contains 153 amino acid units, yet it is extremely compact with very little empty space in its interior. So this is somehow similar to our hemoglobin, but hemoglobin is located in your blood and myoglobin is located in our muscle. So same lang sila no nga nagatransport sang oxygen. Okay, approximately 75% of the amino acid units in myoglobin are part of the 8 right-handed alpha helical sections. So the interior of myoglobin consists almost entirely of non-polar R groups. We have the leucine, valine, phenylalanine, and methionine. And the only interior polar groups are the two histidines. So please remember what are the non-polar R groups and the two polar groups that are in the interior composition of our hemoglobin. Okay? So when we say non-polar interior, these are the hydrophobic core, which stabilizes the protein. For the polar residues in the surface of our protein naman, this will interact with water, which keeps our protein soluble. And the helices and turns will allow the side chain to fold into a compact functional shape. So these perform a necessary function at the active site of the protein, where the non-protein portion, a molecule of the porphyrin heme, binds the oxygen. So in our active site sang aton nga myoglobin, may a non-protein portion, we call that as heme. Okay? So the heme is actually a porphyrin molecule. Your heme will bind to the oxygen and it will allow our myoglobin to store and transport oxygen in muscles. Okay, so we also have certain amino acids in our protein that will help position and stabilize the heme and making the binding site functional. So the outer surface of the protein includes many highly polar amino acid residues like the lysine, arginine, glutamic acid, and etc. So these are the polar amino acids located in the outside surface of our protein. So these amino acids will actually interact with water, so it keeps our myoglobin soluble in aqueous environment of the cell. Okay. So to summarize this section, we see that the particular amino acid content of a peptide or protein influences its shape. So these interactions are mainly a consequence of disulfide bonds and of the polarity or non-polarity of the R groups, their shape, and their ability to form hydrogen bonds. So when we say tertiary structure, it is the overall 3D shape of the protein. So this is actually determined by the different factors like our disulfide bonds, hydrophobic and hydrophilic interactions, R group shapes, and your hydrogen bonding. And lastly, we have the quaternary protein structure. So some high molecular weight proteins exist as aggregates of several subunits, and these aggregates are referred to as the quaternary structure of the protein. So the aggregation helps to keep the nonpolar portions of the protein surface from being exposed to the aqueous cellular environment. So it actually hides the nonpolar parts from water. So for example, we have hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is an oxygen transport protein of your RBCs or red cells, which provides us an example of such aggregation. So it consists of four almost spherical units. We have two alpha units with 141 amino acids and two beta units with 146 amino acids. And these units or four subunits will form a tetrahedral arrangement. So they will work together to carry the oxygen efficiently. So as I've mentioned, your hemoglobin is also an oxygen transport protein similar with your myoglobin, but your myoglobin is under the tertiary protein structure and hemoglobin is under the quaternary protein structure. But both of them carries oxygen. Myoglobin is for muscles, hemoglobin is for blood. Okay, or located in the blood rather. Okay, so this is the structure of our hemoglobin. As you can see, we have the alpha chains and the beta chains. Okay. Many other proteins form similar aggregates. Some are active only in their aggregate state, whereas others are active only when the aggregate dissociates into subunits. So the activity actually depends on the aggregation. So may ara kita proteins nga active lang sila kung aton nga subunits go po die. Okay? But others naman they are only active when the subunits are separated. So it really depends on the aggregation. So the aggregation will actually provide a control mechanism over protein function, and the protein can actually switch on and off depending on whether it's aggregated or dissociated. Okay, so again, quaternary structure, we have multiple subunits that are assembled, and your protein activity can depend on being together or apart. No, we have your aggregation, which acts as a biological switch that controls our protein function. Okay, and to summarize our discussion, we have the different structures for our proteins. Always remember that we have the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary protein structure. So for the primary protein structure, this is actually a sequence of a chain of amino acids. So this is amino acid, not amino acid. Okay. For the secondary protein structure, we have the alpha helix and the beta pleated sheet. For your tertiary protein structure, we now have the three-dimensional folding pattern. And your quaternary protein structure, the protein consists of more than one amino acid chain. Again, these are the different protein structures. Please take note of the difference between the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structures. And also, please take note of the difference between an amino acid, peptide, and proteins. Okay, so we will include this topic in our long exam next week. And I will also give you a quiz with regards to this topic. And please use our reference book for your studies. Although ma-provide mo ko sang PDF, no, pero mas mayagid nga may kita sang book, and they are actually available online. So you can just download it online. Free lang na siya PDF because all of our lessons are being taken from that PDF book. Okay, so I will just upload it online. Also, ang ating mga announcement with regards to the long exam and the final exam and your quizzes as well. Again, please study smart and may God bless you all.